What is the secret to unlocking your full potential? What makes your idols any different than you? How do you become the person you've always wanted to be in life? This is where you get all of your questions answered. My name is Justin Shank, and I sit down with some of the most epic individuals who are changing the world with their actions in business and in life. We discuss how they did it, why they pushed themselves, and more importantly, how they were able to focus on continuous growth to achieve their dreams. Welcome to the Growth Now movement. Hey guys, I just wanted to take a quick second and let you know that I am helping podcasters all around the world level up their podcast, grow their audience, and learn how to monetize their show quickly. If this is something that you're interested in, go over to beginpodcastingnow.com, fill out the contact form, and we'll hop on a free 20-minute consultation call to see how I can help you do the same thing. Now, let me introduce you to our next guest. This week, I sit down with my friend Dov Baron, and we have one of the deepest conversations to ever appear on the Growth Now movement.
Dov has impacted my life. Dov has been a great gift to my life. Many wonderful things. Because the person says, maybe you just don't know him. And my father writes, I know him better than anybody. I should have drowned him at birth.
Oh my God. I met Dov when both of us were chosen as icons of influence at the New Media Summit, and we absolutely just hit it off. And in this episode, you're going to hear crazy things that he's gone through in his life, like you just heard in that little sample, but you're also going to see an amazing side to a human being where we can laugh and we can cry, and we can get real serious and we can joke around because that is life. But you see, Dov's not just some guy or some friend of mine. He's actually a headline speaker for global conferences on leadership, influence, business, and embracing purpose-driven, authentic leadership. He's been speaking internationally for over 30 years. He's the man with a finger on the pulse of the evolving world of next-gen leadership. He's one of Inc. magazine's top 100 leadership speakers to hire, and he is a master storyteller, which you're going to hear in this episode. He is an incredible human being, and I know you guys are going to not only love the content, but you're also going to fall in love with Dov. I promise you that. Now, with that being said, I have a humongous announcement that I'm making on Facebook Live tonight. So this is August 7th. Tonight at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, I'm going live on my personal Facebook page and making a huge announcement. So please go friend me over there because I do not want you guys to miss this. It's a game changer for you, for me, and in the entire world. And I'm beyond excited to share it with you. Now, without further ado, let's get into the episode with my friend, Dov Baron. Dov, welcome to the Growth Now movement, man.
Thanks, mate.
No, it's so funny because that's how I start every show, and I feel like that's become my routine. But we were just having a deep conversation about so much stuff where we're like, we should just start recording. But I have to have that as the intro.
Because we've just done 15 minutes of solving the problems of the world before we ever hit the record button.
I tell people all the time, I'm like, all the gold is the stuff I don't record. When like on all my episodes, you think they're great, you should sit and pay attention when I'm not recording.
Before I hit record.
It's too good.
Just set it for automatic record, mate. As soon as the call goes, that's it.
Yeah, I should do that. I used to do that, and I was like, this is a pain to edit, but there's a lot of gold there, and every conversation I have with you is gold, and that's why I think that I really kind of was drawn to you in a certain sense, right? Yes, you're hilarious and all these other things, but you're also deep, and we met at the New Media Summit in San Diego, and you and I stayed for, I think I had a drink and you had a seltzer. But we stayed for one more and we just had a really deep, great conversation. In that moment, I was like, this guy is going to be somebody who's going to be in my life forever. And you just know that connection was there. And so I'll start out by saying, thank you for being my friend.
That's, you know what? That is really awesome. Thank you. Yeah. I am deeply honored. And, you and I have talked about how we met and the first impressions, and which is also so full of shit. Sorry, I'm choked up. But, one of the things that I got from you not when we were in the crowd, because, you and I can both move into the performance mode. But when we had those conversations together and I got, I wish I'd have had your depth at your age. I had more depth here intellectually, but it wasn't heart connected. And in a conversation with you, you had heart connection depth that I lacked, that I thought I had, but it was in my head, but you actually have it. You know, and you were talking about, before we started recording, about seeing friends do a stand-up and that they're having a good time and you're kind of feeling for them. But one of the things that I think that probably makes you a spectacular interviewer, and it's part of the reason, because we've talked about this off air, part of the reason that you often feel exhausted at the end of an interview is because you're not empathetic. You're an empath. Mm-hmm. There's a difference. You actually feel for the person, not with the person. And that's why you feel the embarrassment for your friend who's going through whatever it is they're going through on the stage. And they're fine. But it's because and that for me, when we sat and had that conversation that night, I was like, I really like this guy. This, you know, it's my language. This guy's a brother. This guy's a brother. And, you know, it doesn't matter about our age difference. It's like, this guy's a brother. He has that depth and that playfulness and the self-reflection. And I just, you know, that was the connection. So thank you for being my friend.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for saying all those nice things. And yeah, the whole empath's journey. Something that I really only discovered about 2 years ago, but I had it my whole life, but it was something that I found out what it meant 2 years ago, maybe a year ago, actually. And it's an interesting thing to navigate. And it's
absolutely,
you know, to feel somebody's emotion, right? Even when they're not necessarily feeling it, or to be in a room full of people and be like, I need to get out of this room because you're feeling whatever, right? So it becomes like this overwhelming sensation. And so, but I also feel like it's a blessing.
It's the greatest gift, and it's the biggest curse. And I've said that for years. I've had it all my life too, but you know, it took me a while to really accept it. And the reason was because I was an incredibly sensitive kid, mm-hmm. and I felt like I was emotionally fragile as a child. So I built a strong veneer. And you know, like we talked about before, people look at me and they think I could punch them in the face, or I've been punched in the face, and both have been true. I was a boxer, I did martial arts, and I've certainly been hit a lot in those times. But that's not who I am. I'm actually a big softie. And that I had to build that veneer just to cope, just to make it through. But it becomes this amazing blessing because, as you know, I was trained originally as a therapist. And I remember sitting, even today I can do it with my clients. I'll sit with them and I'm all choked up, and I'm looking at them and I go, you know what's really sad? And they go, what? I go, that I'm feeling what went on for you more than you are. You've distanced yourself so much from it in order to cope. And I get it, and I respect it, and I understand it. But you've lost compassion for yourself. And this is one of the challenges. And this is what people like us who are empaths can do, is we can remind people to have compassion for what they experienced or are experiencing. Yeah. Because oftentimes we want to say, oh, that's in the past. I'm over that. And my response to that is, well, I got bad news for you. Your past is leaking all over your fucking present and is about to pollute your future. And so people go, yeah, but you can't live in the past. And I'm like, absolutely, you can't live in your past. But you need to have, if it helps you, create a distinction between who you are and who you were, and then look at who you were and have compassion for what that kid went through. You go, but my childhood was good. Great. Fantastic. But what was missing? Because that you can't schmooze over that. You can't put a sugar coating of that. As my mother used to say, I know you love my sayings, as my mother used to say, you know, even if you put icing sugar on shit at the top of shit, it's still shit. Right? So the fact of the matter is it still sucked for that kid. And can you have compassion for that child? That part of you, because that part of you that was hurt, that was wounded, is still living inside of you, and that pain is acting out in some way, shape, or form. And it's important for us to have a deep level of compassion for who we were. Not, you know, even if we can say, well, I'm not that anymore, that's true, but that is still the seeds of who you were born in that place. And as you said, it can be a blessing and it can be a curse.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that it's definitely a skill that everybody can learn, to embrace the stuff that had happened, right? Now, obviously, you do have to move on. Like, you can't let that be, play the victim in all those things and say, woe is me and blah, blah, but you also have to address these things and what's bothering you. And, I'm a big proponent of therapy, and I went to a therapist for a long time after my mom passed away. And like, there was a lot, I was like, no, I love my mom. I'm not mad at her, but you find out, there's some anger there, because of the decision she made. And so there's things that I was able to do to kind of get through that and all that good stuff. So when I look at you and you are a very vulnerable, authentic human being, was there something in your life that happened that almost forced you to be that person from a young age?
I don't think there was something. I think there were many things.
Yeah.
I did a short video this morning, and it says your life as a movie in under 3 minutes was the name of the video. And what I talked about was, and the analogy I gave was, there's a movie you've watched and you've seen it 100 times, and suddenly you go on a search and you find the movie, and it's not a digital movie, it's not a download, it's a celluloid, and you hold it up and you look at each of the frames, and it's like, wow, and you look at each frame and it's amazing, and then you suddenly stop and you realize, if one of these frames was missing, it wouldn't be the same movie, and if another frame was added, it wouldn't be the same movie. But there's a third part. And the third part is this. Yes, it wouldn't be the same if there was a piece missing. It wouldn't be the same if something was added. However, if I take a series of frames called an event, is that the movie? And the answer is no. That's not the movie either. But the problem is that we think that series of frames is the movie. And it frames the entire way we see the rest of the film. And great films always have a twist at the end. They're not what we saw at the beginning. And so for me, that is what it is. So there are many events that have done that to me. Some of those things are stories. And one of my quotes is, your stories become your truth and your truth becomes your stories. Doesn't mean they're true. So what I mean by that is, when I was 9 months old, my father punched me in the face. I don't know that, because I have no memory of that.
Wow.
That's a story. I think it's true, but it's a story because I have no memory of it. I had no memory of my father leaving when I was 7 until I was about 35, and in therapy, a whole series of events happened, and eventually I remembered my father leaving, and I remember the scene specifically. Did that change me? Yes. Did my mother being an emotional just bag of shit after he left, did that do it? Yes, because after my father left, my father patted me on the top of the head and said, "You're the man of the house now," at 7 years old. That is a great way to steal a kid's fucking childhood. Thank you for the fabulous parenting, you sociopathic asshole, which is what my father was.
Yeah.
But I took on at that moment that I was now responsible for my younger siblings and that I was responsible for my mom. So I became, and it's, you see it because you and I have had these conversations, I became my mom's confidant. I became her counsel, but I also became my mother's comedian.
Yeah.
And my mother would often say, I can talk to Dov about anything as a little boy, and he will always make me laugh. So, it's that comedic style that we talked about before we recorded, which was about comedians who can be very playful, but also have this great depth. And so I became that. So I think that was part of what my father gave me, not out of any kind of gift, but it's what he gave me that depth of understanding, and it's what my mother inadvertently put on me in being her confidant, her counsel, and her comedian. So I think there's a whole series of those events in my childhood, and there are many more in my adult life too.
Yeah. So when things like that happen when you're a kid, I mean, at first, I couldn't even imagine what that was like at 7 years old. And I do understand at a young age feeling like you have the burden of the world on your shoulders, taking care of your parents, but not at 7. Did you ever talk to your dad after that, or was that the last time?
Oh no, I spoke to my father. You see, this is the thing, and it's one of the things that people don't understand about human beings is we need to belong. All human beings need to belong. We are tribal beings, and we need to belong. And so we have two mothers and two fathers. And the mothers we have are the real mother and the idealized mother. Now, the idealized mother can be split in two, and that can be the demonized or the idealized. And we have two fathers, the real father and the idealized father or the demonized father, right? So this is psychology. We're getting a bit deep here.
Yeah, no, this is great. I love this.
So that's who they are. So the real father, we will never be able to truly see. The real mother, we'll never be able to truly see. But as we self-examine, we get deeper and deeper and deeper into seeing. So I can see that my father was a narcissist. I can see that he was a misogynist. I can see all of those things about my father. But at the same time, I can also see his troubled childhood. I can see his lack of relationship with his father, the fact that his mother was a narcissist. You know, I can see all those things, and I can have compassion for that.
Sure.
Right? So I can see more of that now because I've done that work. But when we look at these people, it's very important for us to get out of the idealized when we look back. And so oftentimes we try to protect the parents. So I'll have a conversation with them and say, well, you know, in my purpose work, one of the questions I ask my clients is, what did you need as a child that you couldn't get or couldn't get enough of? And they go, well, I had a great childhood. I didn't say you didn't. I never said you didn't.
It's interesting.
Well, and so one of the things that came up recently in a conversation with an executive, he says, well, I wanted intimacy with my father. And I said, wonderful. He goes, but I got it. Defense right away. Why do we defend? We defend because as children, we rely on our parents to survive. And if you don't survive, you die. So how do you survive? You take care of those who take care of you. If I'm mean to him, her, who provides me with food and air and water and shelter, then I can die. So I protect them. And it's an inbuilt mechanism. And it takes a great deal of maturity to stop protecting your parents who don't need your protection. So I can own my father was all the things he was, including the dark and the light. I can own those things with my mother. But I can also have discernment, and this is where people mix up discernment with forgiveness and compassion. Discernment. I'll tell you about discernment, if I may, sidebar.
No, of course.
Is that all right?
Yeah.
And this is going to sound racist, and anybody who's racist also says, but I'm not racist. But it's not a racist comment, and you'll see why when I explain in a moment. So, as you know, Justin, we've talked about it. I traveled the world and studied with all these different spiritual masters. And one of my great teachers was Parthasarathy, who was the dean of Vedanta University in Bombay. So, as you can imagine, he had a very strong Indian accent. And I was studying with him, and he said, on this spiritual path. Now, you see, this is where people think it's racist, and you'll see why it's not in a minute. And he says, on this spiritual path, you are going to need three things. And I was like, okay. Now, I'm 23, and I'm brilliant. I know everything. Because everybody at 23 is brilliant and knows everything, right?
Yeah, I was much more brilliant at 23 than I am now at 33. That's for sure.
Well, I assure you, when you get to 43, you'll look back at 33 with exactly the same results. So he says, on a spiritual path, you will need three things. And I was like, okay. The number one thing you will need is discernment. And it's like, okay. Now, I got to tell you, at 23, I did not know what that word meant. I had no clue, but I figured, I'll look it up when I get back.
Yeah.
The second thing you'll need on the spiritual path is more discernment. And I'm like, no, I'm bollocks, right? I hope to hell. The third thing is not more discernment. The third thing you'll need on the spiritual path is more discernment. So finally, I have to admit, right? I don't know if I know what this means. So I say, I'm not sure if I know what this means, Parthasarathy. And he says, so he explains it to me. So I, being 23, being smart, figure this man who is the dean of the Vedanta University doesn't understand the word, and I do. And I figure it's because he's an Indian and he's got the accent. That's why I do the accent. So I said, oh, you mean judgment? He says, no. I mean discernment. And I said, okay, what's the difference? Judgment is about them. Discernment is about you. I said, explain to me. Because, I was being a smart-ass person. And what he had me understand was that when I look down the street and I see somebody who's overweight and I make a judgment, or I look down the street and I see somebody who's smoking and I make a judgment, or I see somebody behaving in a certain way and I make a judgment, it has no impact on me. It's a judgment. But if you want to behave that way, so you want to come to my house and smoke cigarettes, I'm allowed to have discernment because there's an impact on me.
Right.
But if there's no impact on me, it's just a fucking judgment. And I need to get over that because I don't get to control anybody else's life. So I get to discern the impact on me. So I can forgive my father because I have compassion for what his childhood was like. But I also had discernment to not have him in my life. And so I removed him from my life 17 years before he died. I totally removed him from my life. And I removed him from my life because I didn't have discernment. I had removed him before, but I let him back in. And then when I let him back in, he went on Facebook and attacked me. And I didn't know. I was away on holiday. I was in Mexico. And my one of my team members had set up my fan page. And of course, you don't have to be accepted for a fan page. And he had gone on there, and I'd not looked on his page. So I'm in Mexico, and I got my iPad out, and I go and look, and so I have a look, and there's this long thread, and at the bottom, I'm seeing the last comment was something about, Dov has really had a great impact on my life, but it sounds like this person's defending me, and I'm like, this is weird. So I start looking up the thread, and realize the attacks, but I don't recognize the name. The person's attacking me. That I'm a charlatan, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then this person in the thread who was defending, was actually one of many people who were defending, said, Dov has impacted my life. Dov has been a great gift to my life. It was many wonderful things. And my father writes, because the person says, maybe you just don't know him. And my father writes, I know him better than anybody. I should have drowned him at birth.
Oh, my God.
Now, I knew who my father was, but I wept.
Yeah.
I wept. I'm in Mexico weeping outside of a Starbucks, and my wife comes to meet me, and she goes, you okay? And I was like, nope. I tell her why, and we go home on the bus. The tour bus, go back on that to the hotel, and I'm crying, and she's holding me. And the only question I have is, why? Why would he do that? I haven't spoken to him in years. Why would he do that? There's no reason for him to do that. And my wife, who is fucking brilliant and the greatest gift in my life to this day, the best decision I ever made was asking that woman to marry me. And as we get back to the hotel, she says to me, Dov, you're asking the wrong question. I said, what do you mean? She says, you keep asking, why would he do that? And I said, okay, what's the right question? She says, why wouldn't he? And I said, what do you mean? She goes, you made a decision to remove him from your life because he was so unhealthy. Why wouldn't he do that? He is just aligned with his character. This is who he is. As Maya Angelou said, when people show you who they are, believe them. My little boy wanted the idealized father. That moment revealed my father again. So when my father died, which was actually in 2017, when my father died, I felt horribly mixed feelings. I felt deep, deep sadness. And a lot of, who cares? And I examined that, and I actually made a video about it and shared it with the world because I said, I want you to grasp that you're allowed more than one feeling at a time. We think we've got to be sad, we've got to be happy. No. That's horseshit. And what I had was multiple feelings. And one of the feelings was, I know this man was not part of my life, but my little boy who lives inside of me, suddenly what had died was the dream. The dream that one day my dad would walk up to me and put his arm on my shoulder and say, I love you and I'm proud of you. And that's why my life purpose is to be a father to men. Men is not a gender thing, it's mankind. But is to be what I needed, what the little boy in me needed for others. To look at Justin and say, I see you, not because of your physicality, but I see you at a heart and soul level, and you're a beautiful man, and I'm honored to have you as a friend, because you are a beautiful human being. And that's what we all need. We need to be seen. And that's why my mission, my purpose in life is to be a father to men.
Wow. Never in 100+ episodes have I been speechless. Ever. And I think what you shared there, wow. I think that story that you shared is probably one of the most important stories for a lot of the world to hear. Because I think, you going back to the idea that people say, oh, my childhood was great. You're just covering up something that's hurting you, right? As adults, we all have imperfections. We all do dumb things. We all make bad decisions. And if they're super bad, it usually goes back to things that happened when we were children. And I believe in this saying that life happens for you, not to you. And everything is a gift. No matter how bad it is, it's a gift and an opportunity. And I think your whole entire life, it wasn't that moment, when he made that Facebook comment. It was long before, when you realize there's a need here. And I think I can become the man that needs to fill that need. And then that's your journey, right? And maybe at 23, when you're on the spiritual journey, that wasn't the reason behind it. You didn't know that yet, but that's that's the culmination of your life's work, right? And it goes back to that moment in that conversation with your wife, which is brilliant. So when you say she is the most brilliant person, like I fully believe you. And I think that is just super powerful. Do you feel, I think this is an interesting question that actually I ask pretty often. Do you feel like it's a burden sometimes to feel like you're the person that needs to help the world with that problem?
Absolutely. There's nothing else to say. Absolutely. It is a burden.
Yeah.
I look at people who don't have that depth, and sometimes I'm envious. Sometimes ignorance is bliss. I get it.
Yeah.
It is a burden. But what I want people to know, and because it was the title of my last book, which is called One Red Thread, and that your purpose in your life is this single red thread that feeds through the tapestry of your life, and it emerges most often, usually when shit goes down, and it feels painful. But that one red thread, your purpose, is to provide. I mean, people ask me, how do I find my purpose, Dov? And, so I have a process for it. I teach a course on it. I work with companies to find it. I work with executives to find it. But I work with individuals in my online program with it. But I'm going to give you the shortcut. Your purpose is to heal, or to provide a process, or to do something that brings the healing you needed. I needed a dad. But I'm not going to try and father a dozen children, and I'm not going to try and pretend to be other people's dads. It's the elements of. And what is the element for me? Because somebody else could say the same thing, but it's a different element. The element for me is that I remember my father crouching down in that hallway before he left and patting me on the top of the head and being eye to eye with me. And he didn't see me. He saw the next man of the house. He saw the place to pass the burden. And what I needed was to be seen as this sensitive little boy who was loving and affectionate and terrified. That's what I was. And terrified. And I needed him to see that. And my mother never saw that. And my father never saw that. And so that's the element. So yes, it's a burden, but the burden will heal you. Will it heal you completely, totally? No, it's not supposed to. The scars, so here's the thing to understand. A scar is the thicker skin. But the thicker skin does not exist without the wound. Yeah. Where two pieces of metal are welded together, when that metal breaks again, it will not be at the weld. That's the strongest part. It's the same with the wound and the scar. I am covered in emotional scars. And each one of those scars makes me stronger, gives me the power to do what I need to do, to go out in the world and face what I need to face, to be the hero of my journey, and to inspire others to be the hero of their own journey. And to not take that series of frames and say, this is who I am. No, this adds to the story that is a magnificent, heroic journey that we're all on. And will you feel beaten down? Will you feel battered? Will you feel hit to the canvas so many times? You will. And here's the news. You're going to get knocked down again. But you must rise as a champion, not just for yourself, but for those that you serve. And if you're not here to serve, you're just not done your journey yet.
Yeah, 100%. You know, we talked about this a while ago, and we talk about, you know, the suicide of Anthony Bourdain and Kate Spade and Robin Williams and these people on the outside. When we see them, we go, oh, they have everything. They've been given everything. But obviously there's a lot of sadness that they carried and a lot of all these things and their own scars, right?
Of course.
So how can somebody who's going through this journey and they're feeling like they've lost hope because of the scars, they feel the scars are weighing them down, how can they make a shift, or what can they do to get out of that kind of depths of their life at this point?
That's a great question. You know, and that video I made about Anthony Bourdain and about suicide and suicide awareness, and one of the things I talked about was it. And that when you're going through the depression, the darkness, and, you know, I've been there, when you're in that place, it feels like it won't get any better. And I don't know what it is. And the reason I say I don't know what it is because actually it's a different it for each of us. So whatever it is. But then, of course, and at that moment, you might feel like so desperate because it's never going to get any better. But if you don't suicide and you do stay, it does get better. And you see your life does get better. And I've had those moments. I remember being suicidal, particularly in my 30s, being suicidal and then getting to a place sometimes a week later, sometimes a day later, sometimes a couple of hours later, sometimes a long time later, but going, wow, this amazing thing is just happening right now. And I would have missed this. And often for me, that's a moment of sharing love and feeling so deeply connected to another human being. And I would have missed that if I'd have taken that out. But here's the thing. If you suffer with depression, because, you know, there's a psychological triggers, there's biological triggers, there's all kinds of things with it. And if it comes back, and it will likely come back in some way, shape, or form, when it comes back, the first thing that will emerge is that same it. The it that got better was the same it when you were feeling like it's not going to get any better. So now it's reemerged, and there's a compounded effect because you see, because your mind says, see, it didn't get any better. You see, you thought it was better, but it fooled you. It didn't get better. It's still the same shit that you were dealing with when you were 10, when you were 15, when you were 25, whatever it is. And the only thing you can do is also remember there is another side. If you're only looking at the it, so you have to design another it. So what is the other it? And my other it is, who have I served? Who can I serve? And it doesn't make any difference, Dov. It won't make any difference, Dov. And then it does. And then it does. And so particularly in a social media, celebrity-driven world, we're looking for instant gratification, and that's the acknowledgement that it is better. But when I fell off the mountain and I got smashed up and I was in a very, very dark, depressed and suicidal place, and that's actually the place where I remembered my father leaving, I decided I had to find my purpose. And it wasn't until 6 years later, in front of a room with all these people in front of me, and people are gracious and they're kind and they're generous, and they stand in front and they want to thank me for the impact that I've had on their lives after this 5-day training. And it would hit the fucking plexiglass. You know, it would hit the shield and bounce off, and I wouldn't let it in. And so I trained myself to ask a question. When they said thank you, I would say, may I ask you specifically for what? So that would allow me the cognition to take it in a little bit. I have a little bit of cognitive process there.
Right.
And this one lady stood in front of me. She was in her early 40s. And she was a nice-looking lady, longer red hair and sparkly green hazel eyes. And I said, what do you know, for what? And she took pause and she said, I want to thank you for my grandchildren. And I looked at her and thought, this woman's not old enough to have grandkids. I know, because I was a young granddad. And it's like, she's not, no, it can't be. And she said, I said, you don't look old enough. And she said, I'm not. But over there, I see that's my daughter over there. She's pregnant. And she goes, because of what we've done here, it's changed my relationship with my daughter, and it will change my relationship with my grandchildren. And eyes exploded, face started to leak. and and it was in that moment that I got it. that being on purpose is about impact on the people whose names I will never know and who will never know me. They will never know my name. I have no idea that that lady's grandchildren will ever know the name Dov Baron. And if they do, they will maybe never know the relationship between that and how their mother or how their grandmother was with them. But that is the thing that gets you through is the understanding of this, that there is an impact of who you are that is far greater and far beyond the instant in front of you. So when you think about suiciding, and this is part of what has got me out of the hole, is when I think about suiciding, it will ease the pain. But when I look at the people I know, and I know them, who have had people who have suicided in their family or people they love who have suicided, the impact is generational. The impact is, it impacts people's lives that you're not even part of. So the impact is always a massive ripple effect, whether you decide to do it positively or negatively. And, I will not use the cliche of it's a short-term solution, it's a solution for a short-term problem that will pass. It doesn't feel that way when you're in it. Yeah. But you have to understand there's a ripple effect. And if you give a shit about people, even if you don't give a shit about yourself in that moment, you have to know this will have impact that will outlive you, that will outlive your funeral. So make a decision that you're going to have impact anyway. So what is it going to be?
For sure. How important is purpose to people's lives? Like finding your purpose. Like, how do you think that's the key? Is that the thing that's going to unlock a lot of this?
For me, it is. The work that I've done, I find it is. I mean, as you know, we do it with companies and organizations, and it transforms the organization. It transforms the leaders, the decisions they're making about the company and what the company is actually about. It's changed dramatically by purpose. But the purpose process is individual first. So we work with the CEO, we work with the founder, we work with the executives, we work with whoever it is first, and we design a corporate purpose out of that. That becomes this guideline for here's the decision I have. I'm faced with this decision. It's very difficult. But if I come to my purpose, does this align with my purpose? If I stop bullshitting myself and I actually tell the truth, is it aligned with my purpose? And I think that why I think purpose work is so powerful is because it stops us pretending everything was fine. It teaches us to have compassion for who we were. And it also teaches us the joy of the moment. So, yes, I want to have compassion for the kid who was punched in the face or whose dad walked away. But I also want to live in the joy and the bliss of the lives that I get to touch and the laughs that I get to have with Justin and the lads that I get to hang out with and the people I get to be with and the bliss and the love I have with my wife. All that is aligned with purpose. And if I did not have my purpose in place, I know for sure I would have gotten rid of my wife. I would have found a way to sabotage that relationship. And I did try. Right, in the very early days, I would have sabotaged that relationship. And I would have sabotaged every decent relationship in my life in order to prove, and this is what is important. If you don't deal with your purpose, don't find your purpose, you will try and prove the shitty beliefs that got installed. Wow. This is what people don't realize. That's what I said about your past is leaking all over your present and is about to poison your future, is if you don't find your purpose and go to work on healing that, you will unconsciously set about proving the shitty beliefs you have about who you are. And please don't do that. You are magnificent, and you are here to be magnificent. But you can't do that by pretending your life is through rose-colored glasses. You are a multifaceted diamond, and you have contradictions, and your contradictions are beautiful. I am the most macho, grunting idiot in the gym as I'm leg pressing 1,600 pounds, and the sweat's falling off me, and you can hear me grunt across the gym. And you know, because you've seen me in person, I have the gayest shoes in the world. You know, I'm gay from the ankles down. So what am I? Am I a gay macho guy? Yes. Am I deeply compassionate and empathetic? Yes. Am I tough and will my clients feel like I'm in their face? Absolutely. I'm all of that.
This
Oh.
This is the perfect segue, actually, to the next part that I wanted to get into. Like, you're one of the funniest motherfuckers I've ever met in my life. And I don't use that term very often, the motherfuckers part, but it's very true. Like, you're hilarious. And, we had talked, you touched on it briefly when I hit record about first impressions and then what's the next thing. And like, just what you see, it's so true. Like, what you see on the outside is not what you get. And I think that first impressions are complete bullshit and you have to give an opportunity and get to know somebody. But here's the thing. The reason I want to bring this up and the fact that you're hilarious, but also this deep person leading people to find their purpose. There's so many freaking people in the world who are living in this idea of, oh no, I have to be 100% perfect, on point all the time. I can't have fun. I can't joke around. I can't laugh at things that are a faux pas to laugh at, right? Can we talk to those idiots for a second?
Yeah, let's talk to them.
Like, I get so annoyed, and you see it all the time on social media with these idiots who are like, you can tell they're not really doing anything with their business, but they're just shouting and hoping that it works, and that's what it is 24/7. How important it is that they freaking cut that bullshit and have a little fun?
Well, I think that, number one, they should go see a doctor and have a polectomy. Have the pole taken out of their ass. And by the way, I should warn you that if you have the pole taken out of your ass, sometimes as you remove it, splinters will come off and get stuck in there, and you may grow a new pole. So you may need multiple polectomies. So you should know that about yourself. And here's the bottom line. If you're that fucking serious about yourself, you need to wake up, because you are just not that fucking important. Yes, you heard me talking about you have impact and you're responsible for that impact. But the bottom line is everybody's going to lead their own lives, and most of them are going to ignore you and not even notice. You are at best, passing entertainment. Most of the time, and I can get deep and serious, but I am actually clear that I've impacted people's lives who don't remember my name, let alone never know my name, but remember my name because they got caught in their own shit. So here's the deal. Don't take yourself so seriously. You've got to find, and like, this is part of the thing is like, you think you've got to be perfect. Rappel Collier Rappel, can't remember which way his name goes, French guy, fabulous guy, does some great work on cultural stuff and cultural exchange, and he talks about what different things mean in different countries, and he talks about cheese because he's French, and he says, what is cheese in France? And he says, cheese in France is a member of the family. It's there at every table. It's at room temperature like we are. And, he talks about that, and he said brilliant cultural insights. And he says, North America has this fascination with being perfect. We're obsessed with coming across as perfect. And he says, but the only way you get to be perfect is by being dead. And he gives an analogy, which I use in my work. And he says, if you've ever been to a funeral, the person who dies is perfect. In fact, and I say in my work, the job of the guy giving a eulogy is actually to be a fucking dry cleaner. You dry clean out all the dirty spots of somebody's life, and you deliver just the beautiful, clean, crisp version of that person. You get to be perfect when you're dead. So by trying to be perfect, you're just moving faster towards dead. So here's the deal. Get the fact that you are imperfect. Get the fact that actually might be what's fabulous about you, and might be the most inspiring thing about you, and might be the most moving thing about you. We're so obsessed with being politically correct. We're so obsessed. Like, stop it.
Yeah.
Stop it. I mean no disrespect with my Indian accent. My wife is brown. My wife's of Indian heritage.
That's what I was about to call you out. I was like, he's married to an Indian woman. But that's the typical, like, when you're like about to tell a joke about a race, but you're like, I have a friend that's that race. You know what I mean? Like, it makes it a little bit okay, right?
Well, the thing is about it that my wife's family loves my Indian accent, and when they do some kind of skit, they always ask me to be the Indian guy because none of them have that accent.
That's amazing.
But there again, my wife is she's Fijian of Indian heritage, and her family were hardcore holy roller Christian ministers Her father was Brahmin, as in Indian high caste of priests, and her father left that religion when he was 16 to become a Christian minister and traveled the world to be a missionary and all this. So hardcore Christian, right? But my wife's mother's. What's that?
How'd she end up with you?
This is it. So my wife's mother's sister-in-law is Muslim, right? She's not hardcore, but she's Muslim, right? And she loves my fake Muslim prayer. She comes over and I start doing the call to prayer, and she's like cries laughing. She thinks it's so funny because there's no malice in it, and this is where we've gone so wrong. We've got to look at intent and malice. And I'm not saying, well, I meant nothing by it. That's not, I don't give a shit what you say about that. It's clear. There's no malice. I grew up in Northern England. That's where I grew up originally as a kid. And my friends were Jamokes. That's a racist comment. They were Jamaican. They were Pakistanis. But we never meant it as a thing. My black friends were not. They were N-words. But nobody meant any meanness by it. And I was the fucking Jew. And I never took any of it as mean or cruel, and none of us did. It was simply the way to say, if you had a mate called Steve, and they go, well, which Steve? Steve the Packy. Oh, okay, good, Steve. Right? I mean, it wasn't meant as meanness. But now we're afraid to say that the person I was just talking to, oh, have you seen my friend? Who's your friend? Well, he's a tall guy with a wider nose and curly hair. Oh, you mean he's black? Like, we're so uptight about this shit, and we've forgot to be human. We've gone so far to the left of that stuff. And listen, I'm all about caring and being compassionate. And you and I were talking about Hannah Gatsby and her stand-up around being a lesbian, and it's powerful and it's moving and it's a wake the fuck up, white boy. It's really fantastic. It's insane. It's funny. And it's profound, and it brought me to tears, and it makes me more aware, and I love that. But am I going to stop saying the Robin Williams line of women in comfortable shoes? I'm not. It's a great line, and I have gay and lesbian friends, and my wife comes home and she's like, my new shoes? I go, yeah, they look very comfortable, and that's code for they look like lesbian shoes. There's no malice in it. So I think that this is the thing, is that everybody's trying to be perfect because we're trying not to offend. And when you try not to offend, you immediately dilute who you are. And please don't go the other way with this and think, well, I've just given you permission to be a dick. This is not about being a dick. It's about being real and being human and being own. And again, moving to discernment rather than judgment. So I'm not judging anybody on any of that stuff. It's none of my goddamn business. I don't care. I don't care if you like a dick in your ear. I don't care if you, whatever it is turns you on, whatever lights your candle, whatever turns your windmill, fantastic. I get to discern how it impacts me, and I get to know where I'm coming from. And you don't get to tell me that. I get to know that.
Yeah, I mean, an important step with that is, too, to be able to laugh at yourself, right?
Well, that's the key, right?
Yeah, that's exactly the key.
When we sat together, not just you and I, but the whole gang from our podcast, when we sat together, we all made fun of not only each other, because we definitely did that, but we made fun of ourselves. We made fun of ourselves. I talk about parking my walker outside because I'm the oldest of the six. Right? We talk about Rob's perfect dental work, because he's a Hollywood trainer. We all do that. We can all, I think that the best people in life are the people who know how to laugh at themselves. And I think that if you're trying to have impact and you're trying to be perfect, you don't get connection. Power and connection. The analogy I give people all the time is, if you really want to understand connection and bonding, think of two people. One person on your right you've known for 3 to 5 years. They're your trusted friend. They're fiercely loyal. And on the other side of you, somebody you've known 3 to 5 years, and they're an acquaintance. What's the difference between the two? It's not time, right?
Right.
It's vulnerability.
Yeah, you've opened up, yeah.
They know your shit, and you know their shit. That's what makes somebody a real friend. And that means you've stopped trying to be perfect. And that's what creates real bonds.
I love
that's
that.
why we go there.
By the way, I Googled, I mean, I knew a lot about you before the call, but I Googled just to make sure I was getting certain names right and so on and so forth. And if anybody wants to have a good laugh, Google Dov and click on images. And you can see this guy through the decades and the many faces of Dov. It's unreal. You really have, so here's the thing. It's crazy. Like, you've been in the game so long, and that's not an age joke. That's like, the fact that you rose to the top and stayed there for this long is a tip of the cap to you. It means you do an amazing job. It means you get it. It means you're truly helping people and impacting lives. But it also leaves a breadcrumb of incredible photos with great hairdos and just phenomenal things. So you have to go Google that, which is really, really funny, actually. But, you know, and as I was just saying, you've done amazing things. You speak all over the world. Forbes rated you as a top 100 speaker in leadership.
Yeah, top 100 leaderships in the world 2 years in a row.
That's amazing. You have that, best-selling author. You run an amazing consulting company, so on and so forth. So the neat part about these podcasts, and you know this, we get to talk to successful people all the time. Like, we get to learn from them, we get to do all these things, but we all define success in different ways. So my question for you is, what is your definition of success, and what are 3 things you do every single day to ensure that success?
My definition of success is now got a lot more facets to it than it used to have. I used to exclude money. Now I include money. Excluding money is a great way to stay broke. And a great way to have an excuse for staying broke. Am I wealthy? I'm not wealthy, but, you know, I'm certainly not broke anymore. So it has to include wealth. It has to include money. But if I work with people who are billionaires, and I know if you have money and you don't have soul, then you're not really successful. So for me, success is a limited word, and I like a better word, which is living a fulfilled, purpose-driven life. And that includes wealth, as in money. It includes the exchange of energy through money. It includes health. It includes a connection to your own soul. But more than anything, it's relationships. I define my success by my relationships. I know somebody recently who passed away with very few people at their funeral. And I think, God, like, that is the measure. That is the ultimate measure, the quality of your relationships. So your commitment to relationships, and I'm not talking about being a doorstep, because that's not what it's about at all, but having healthy relationships that have reciprocal vulnerability and depth, having a soulful connection to your own purpose, making a difference in the lives of others because of that, and enriching the relationships you have because of that, self-knowledge, and the willingness to have the self-knowledge so you can align with your purpose, and then serving and making money while looking after the vessel that you're in, this vehicle called my body. That's what I call success.
I love that. And what are 3 things you do every day to ensure that that's the life you're living?
Number one, not every day, because that would be to say 7 days a week, but I work out. I'm healthy, as you know. I've been doing that for more than 40 years. So working out, being healthy, eating healthy, those kinds of things. But I'm not obsessive about it anymore. I was, and I just don't think that works. So healthy, I do every day. Relationships is one of the ways that I do every day. So every single day, I have conversations that inspire me. As you know, I have a podcast we've had for 10 years. I get to have great conversations through that. I get to be on shows like yours, and I get to have amazing conversations, and that enriches my soul. That's part of how I do it too. But when those are not going on, I'm still having those conversations with the boys, with my sons, with my daughter, with my wife, with my close friends so that's part of it. Meditation. For me, writing is an important process. And sometimes I write for, of course, as you know, I write for all kinds of outlets, but writing in my journal, just self-exploration, is one of the ways that I do that. So, you know, when people say, you know, what do you do? It's what is your ritual? My life is my ritual. My life is my ritual. Like on a daily basis from the beginning of spring until mid-fall, I'm in my garden every single day, pottering around with my flowers. And my wife will say, she watches me through a window. I can't see her because of the reflection of the light. And I come in and she go, it's really lovely to watch you in your garden. And she goes, why? She goes, you look like a little boy. You just look so peaceful. And I'm just like looking at the flowers and I'm deadheading. And I've gone from being this intense guy or the funny guy or the deep guy to being this little boy who's in an active meditation of being with the flowers.
I love that. I love all of those things. So how do people get your new book? How do they get a hold of you? How do they follow you? Where do they find your podcast? All that good stuff.
Thank you. Thank you for asking. I appreciate it. My latest book is called One Red Thread. It's about purpose and how to find your purpose. Of course, you can find that on Amazon. My last leadership book was called Fiercely Loyal. You can also find that on Amazon. Just went on special. That's on Amazon right now as well. And that's really talking about how to build loyalty by developing a culture around vulnerability and power and purpose in a way that will bond millennials to your organization and create collaboration and innovation. So you can find that on Amazon. My main site is fullmontyleadership.com. But if you go fullmontyleadership.com/gifts, GIFTS, I forgot how to spell gifts for a moment there. Little break up. little neuroflatulence for that. If you go to fullmontyleadership /gifts, you can go onto there and you'll find out that we've got a bunch of gifts for people who are listening to us on the podcast. I appreciate you asking me to do that. You can find me on YouTube, Dov Baron Full Monty Leadership. On LinkedIn, it's under my name, DOVBARON. I'm on Instagram. I'm on Twitter. I'm on all of those places. And you know what? You can write to me. People think I'm nuts for this. My private email is dov@dovbaron.com. Write to me. Tell me what you got out of this. And I want you to do this not only to tell me what you got out of this, because as I said, it's about impact, but I want you to CC Justin and tell him this guy has amazing guests. He puts the time, the energy, the effort in to find these great guests and bring them to you. It takes time. It takes energy, far more than this time that we're talking here. Write to the guy. Tell him the impact of the show, not just mine, not just with me on, but with any of the guests on. Let him know the impact. Go to iTunes, rate, review, subscribe to the show, put a review, tell the impact. Let other people know. If this made a difference in your life, this man has put the energy in, at least have the generosity, the reciprocal generosity to give back. Because listen, human beings need to know they matter. It's all of us. So write to him, write to me, tell us the impact. Tell me what you're going to do with what you've learned from me, if you've learned anything. Tell me to go stick it in where the sun doesn't shine. That's fine too. Okay. But let's connect. Let's have some kind of communication here. And if I can help you, if I can serve you, whether it's you as an individual or you as an organization, write to me. Tell me. I'm happy. I'm here. This is why I'm on the planet. I'm here to serve. So that's how you can find me.
Yeah, definitely, guys. Go invest in this guy. Time, energy, a couple bucks for a book. Like, this guy is the real freaking deal, as you just heard from this episode. So make sure you go do all that stuff. And by the way, my email is justin@growthnowmovement.com. So when you're CCing me, just send it to that one. So I'm going to get into 5 rapid fire questions. Some are fun, some are serious, but I ask you this, answer within 1 word or at the most 1 sentence. Are you ready?
Sure.
All right. The first one is, what's your favorite smell?
My wife's neck.
I like that. What's your favorite? This is a 2-parter. What's your favorite and your least favorite word?
This is going to get marked with E, right?
Yes.
Okay. My favorite word is cunt.
Wow.
I love that word. See, because I'm British, I love that word because it's so taboo. And it says better than anything else. I just like, yeah. And for me, it's totally playful. It's not an insult.
Right. I love it.
It's totally playful, right? So I would only call a really good friend a cunt. I would never say it to anybody who I don't like.
I see where I stand now.
So now you are officially a cunt. And my least favorite word, that's easy. Fine.
I hate
How
fine.
Are you?
I hate it.
Aerosmith. Fine. Fucked up, insecure, neurotic, and emotional. Stick your fine where the sun don't shine.
I hate that word. I totally agree with you. When people say it to me, I'm like, oh, what? You know what I mean? Or like, are you
exactly
like you're dating a girl or whatever, and you say to her like, "You want to go here for dinner?" Yeah, that's fine. No, that means you don't really want to go. So how about you just tell me where you want to go? Like,
could not be more passive aggressive. Forget fine.
So true. If you could have dinner with one person, living or dead, who would it be?
Oh, that is a great question. Man, that is a hard question for me. That is I go from Maimonides to Robin Williams. Oh my God, that is difficult. Martin Luther King. Let me think. One person, living or dead. I would probably. I think I would have to go. It sounds so cliche. I would probably have to go with Maya Angelou.
I love that answer.
Maya Angelou, because of who she was and the difference she made, but not only was she black, she was a woman. She understood this multidimensional sense. She was this great philosopher and poet. She was also a stripper, like in her younger years.
I didn't know that.
Right? People don't know that. So she has this wonderful flavor of life. She has seen every aspect of it, and for me, there's such wonderful depth in her. So I think she's the one, because I want to have a conversation where I could sit and go, give me some insight that I need. So it would probably be her.
Yeah. So at this point, if you did think Dov was a racist who only preferred the company of men, it's not true. It is not true, folks. So that solves all of that. At the end of your life, if you could only be remembered for one sentence, what would that be?
I already said it. Dov was a father to men.
I love that. And obviously this podcast is called the Growth Now Movement. Sorry, what was that?
I said men means mankind.
Yeah. So obviously this podcast is called the Growth Now Movement. So I wrap up every single episode with this one question. And that is, in your life, what has been your biggest moment of growth?
The biggest moment of growth was the moment of complete, total emotional collapse. I fell off the mountain. You know that. I got smashed to pieces. That's what I call a pivotal point. People don't change at pivotal points. The world thinks we do. We don't. We change at a choice point, which comes later when life can become normal. That was the moment for me. That was the moment of my growth when I decided that I could not continue with the bravado, that I had to find my purpose, and that I would be willing to burn the ships. That I was like, okay, there's nothing else. I just got it. I can't do anything else. That was the greatest moment of change.
I love it.
And only to be seconded by meeting my wife, which transformed my life in every possible way.
Yeah, I love that. Dov, thank you so much for taking the time and sharing your wisdom with my audience and myself. Always love this conversation. Just thank you so much for being you and doing what you're doing to impact the world. And I know for a fact that at the end of your life, that's how you're going to be remembered. And I think that's incredible.
Thank you so much, Justin. I'm honored to have been here, to have served you, to serve the audience, and I'm honored to have you as a friend. Thank you, my friend. I sincerely appreciate it. And this was an awesome conversation, and I'm really grateful for it.
Thank you. I loved every second of it, man. Thanks. Thank you guys so much for being a part of the Growth Now movement. This is how you can really help me out. If you guys enjoyed this episode, please share it out on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all that fun stuff. And let's grow this movement to epic heights. And it's all going to be because of you guys. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next week.